Imagine the most dangerous man in all of Seoul, a man whose name alone makes grown men cry in bathroom stalls, is lying in a hospital bed, machines beeping, doctors walking out, his own men standing outside the door too scared to go in. And the one person who walks through that door, rolls up her sleeves, looks him dead in his sharp little face and says, "Boy, you are not dying today," is a black woman from Lagos named Camille. Yes, that is today's story. So make sure you're comfortable. Grab your water, grab your snacks, because we are going all the way in today. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. This is the home of Afro-Korean Mafia Romance, where the love stories are dangerous, the men are devastatingly handsome and emotionally unavailable, and the women? The women always win. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single episode. Now, let's begin. His name was Kwon Jae-won, and if you were Korean, you already felt something reading that name. A little chill, maybe. A small instinct to look over your shoulder. Because in Seoul's underground world, the gambling rings, the shipping ports, the quiet restaurants where the food was excellent and the conversations were terrifying, that name meant one thing. Don't. Don't cross him. Don't lie to him. Don't owe him money. Don't look at him wrong. Don't breathe in his direction if you haven't been formally introduced. Kwon Jae-won was 32 years old, 6 feet tall, had a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so cold you could store fish in them. He wore suits that cost more than most people's rent. He spoke slowly and softly, which everyone knew was actually more scary than yelling, because when a man that powerful speaks softly, it means he's already decided what's going to happen to you. He ran the Kwon Syndicate, 3 generations of organized crime wrapped in tailored fabric and expensive cologne. And he had never, not once in his adult life, asked anyone for help. Not his men, not his lawyers, not his family. He was the kind of man who would rather solve a problem alone at 3 a.m. than admit in daylight that he needed someone. So naturally, the universe looked at all of that energy and said, "Let's break him." It started on a Tuesday. Jae-won had been at a port meeting, the kind where men in expensive shoes stand around shipping containers and discuss things that would make a judge very, very unhappy. When someone who was supposed to be his ally turned out to be something else entirely. 3 shots. His security team got him out. Barely. They drove 90 kilometers over the speed limit, one of his men literally holding Jae-won's side together with his bare hands the entire ride. And by the time they got to the private medical facility his syndicate used for exactly these kinds of situations, the lead surgeon took one look at the scans and quietly pulled Jae-won's second-in-command, a nervous man named Do-hyun, into the hallway. "The damage to his liver is severe," the doctor said. He was a man in his 50s with a tired face and the posture of someone who had seen too much. "There's internal bleeding we cannot fully control. His blood pressure is dropping. If we operate now, there's a 40% chance he doesn't survive the table." Do-hyun stared at him. "And if you don't operate?" The doctor looked at the floor. Do-hyun understood. He went back into the room, looked at his boss. At this man who had never in all the years Do-hyun had known him looked small, and felt something in his chest crack quietly. Then the doctor came back one more time and said the thing that sealed it. "There's a complication with his blood type. It's extremely rare. We don't have the right resources here, and our specialist, the only one who could possibly navigate this, she's not available. She's no longer on our staff." "Why not?" Do-hyun asked. The doctor cleared his throat. "She left. Voluntarily. There were disagreements about our methods." He paused. "She was quite vocal about them." Do-hyun looked at the ceiling. "Find her," he said. "Find her right now." And that is how, At 11:47 on a Tuesday night, a very flustered hospital administrator found himself standing outside a small apartment building in Mapo-gu, pressing an intercom button with the energy of a man who knew his night was about to get worse. The voice that came through the intercom was not pleased. "It is almost midnight," said the voice. "Whatever you are selling, I promise you, I don't want it." "Dr. Camille Adeyemi?" the administrator said. "My name is—" "I know who you are," said the voice. "You work for Director Shin. I quit that hospital 4 months ago. Goodbye." "Please, good night." "There's a patient." "There are always patients. That is literally what a hospital is. Good night, sir." "He'll die without you." A pause. Then, dryly, "People die, sir. It is, medically speaking, extremely common." The administrator pressed his earpiece, listening to something, then said, "Dr. Adeyemi, we will compensate you generously. Whatever—" "I don't want your money." "Name your price." "I said," and now the voice had shifted from dry to something flatter and more serious, "I don't want your money. I left that facility because of the way patients were treated, because of the choices that were made about who received proper care and who didn't, because of the ethics, or more accurately, the absence of them. And you want me to come back in the middle of the night because someone important is dying? Someone who matters to Director Shin?" Another pause. "Who is it?" The administrator said nothing. "Who is it?" More nothing. "Let me ask you something," Camille said. "Is this person a good man?" The administrator's silence was extremely loud. "That's what I thought," she said. "Good night." The intercom clicked off. The administrator stood there for a moment. Then he pressed the button again. Static. He pressed it again. More static. He pressed it 4 more times with increasing desperation. The intercom crackled. "Sir," said the voice, "I am a doctor and I need my sleep. If you press that button 1 more time, I will come downstairs, and trust me, that will not be the exciting development you are hoping for." The administrator called Do-hyun. Do-hyun drove there himself. When Do-hyun stepped out of the black car and pressed the intercom, the response was exactly the same, polite, firm, and showing absolutely no signs of negotiation. So Do-hyun did something he had never done in 15 years of working for the most powerful crime family in Seoul. He pressed the intercom and said simply, "Please." Silence. Then, "What?" "Please," Do-hyun said again. He was not a man who used that word. His throat felt strange doing it. "I'm not here to argue ethics with you, Dr. Adeyemi. I'm not going to pretend my boss is a good man. I don't know what he is, honestly. I've worked for him for 15 years and I'm still not entirely sure. But he's alive right now, and he might not be in an hour, and I don't know what to do. So I drove here myself at midnight to say, please. That's all I have." A very long silence. Then the door buzzed open. Camille Adeyemi came down the stairs in a hoodie, her locks pulled up and a massive pineapple on top of her head, glasses slightly crooked, and the expression of someone who was making a decision they weren't entirely at peace with yet. She was 29 years old. She had graduated top of her class from the University of Lagos College of Medicine, completed her surgical residency in London, and come to Seoul 3 years ago on a research fellowship that had turned into a full-time position, that had turned into a full-time moral dilemma. She was 5'4" on a tall day, had arms that had held instruments for 8-hour surgeries without trembling, and a face that communicated exactly what she was thinking at all times, whether she meant it to or not. Right now her face was saying, "I know this is a terrible idea, and I am doing it anyway, and I would like it noted for the record that I know." She looked at Do-hyun. Do-hyun looked at her. "You know who my boss is," he said. It wasn't a question. "Kwon Jae-won," she said flatly. "Yes, I read the news. Sometimes. Then you understand the situation we're in. I understand that a man who has made a considerable number of enemies has run into one of them, Camille said. I also understand that none of that matters to me the moment he becomes my patient. So let's be clear about something before we go anywhere. She looked at him steadily. I treat him my way. I make every call. Nobody in that room second-guesses me, talks over me, or tries to tell me what to do based on what's convenient for whoever's funding that hospital. If I say something, it happens. If I need something, I get it. No arguments, no interference, no men with earpieces hovering like expensive furniture. Do-hyun blinked. I know he has men everywhere. Those men will stand outside. Agreed? A pause. Agreed. And, she added, pulling a jacket off the hook by the door and grabbing her bag, whoever shot him, that's not my problem. I'm not a fan of whatever it is that man does for a living, but in that room, he is a patient, just a patient. And I am going to do everything I can to keep him alive, because that is what I do. Not for your boss, not for the Kwon Syndicate, for the patient. Are we clear? Do-hyun, who had stood in rooms with people 3 times as intimidating as him and not flinched, felt himself nod very quickly. Good, said Camille. She put on her glasses properly. Let's go. The drive was 40 minutes and mostly silent. At one point, Do-hyun, who had clearly decided that whatever happened tonight he was going to die anyway, said quietly, "He's not going to be easy." Camille didn't look up from the medical file someone had emailed her. Easy patients are boring. He doesn't like being told what to do. Noted. He has never, in my knowledge, allowed a doctor to tell him anything without arguing. That's cute, said Camille, and turned to Paige. Do-hyun decided not to say anything else. The private facility was a clean, quiet building that felt expensive in a way that was specifically designed not to look expensive. The staff all wore that particular expression of people who had signed a very serious NDA. Camille walked in and immediately went to scrub in. She reviewed the scans. She read every note. She asked 3 rapid questions that the attending physician, a man who was clearly rattled and had not expected to be outpaced at 1 a.m., scrambled to answer. Then she walked into the room and stopped. Kwon Jae-won did not look like a mafia boss right now. He looked like a man, a hurt, pale, unconscious man with IVs in both arms and a monitor beeping steadily beside him. His face in repose was, and Camille noted this with the part of her brain that noticed things and filed them away, unexpectedly human. The sharpness was still there, the structure of his face, but the cold was gone because there was no one home to keep it running. He just looked like a man. Young, almost. Tired. Camille set her bag down. Okay, she said, more to herself than anyone. Let's see what we're working with. 4 hours. That's how long the surgery took. Do-hyun sat outside the entire time. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He answered 3 calls from people higher up in the syndicate and told them all the same thing. Waiting. He watched the door. He counted floor tiles. He had a brief, very strange experience at 3 a.m. where he thought about every choice he had ever made in his life and whether those choices had been good ones. The door opened at 5:14 a.m. Camille came out. She had taken off her surgical cap and her locks were coming loose from the pineapple. There was exhaustion in her face, but her eyes were clear. He's stable, she said. Do-hyun exhaled so hard he nearly fell off the chair. The next 24 hours are critical, Camille continued. He needs to be monitored constantly. His body has been through enormous trauma, and he needs rest. Real rest, not whatever rest a man like him thinks he can get away with. He cannot be moved. He cannot have visitors except for essential staff. And if someone in a suit, who who is not a doctor comes into that room and tries to wake him up to discuss business, I will personally," she paused, "handle it." Do-hyun looked at her. "How?" "Creatively," said Camille, and went to find coffee. He woke up slowly. This was unusual. Kwon Jae-won had a long history of waking up quickly, eyes open, mind sharp, hand already reaching for his phone before the rest of him had finished deciding it was morning. He was not a man who eased into consciousness. He arrived there. But this time, consciousness arrived in pieces. Sounds first, the beeping. Then light, pale, medical, fluorescent. Then sensation, which he immediately wished had come last because it was not pleasant. He opened his eyes. The ceiling was white. There was a steady beeping. There was a window. And there was a woman in a chair beside his bed, reading something on a tablet, locks piled on her head, glasses on, wearing scrubs that had a small coffee stain on the left sleeve, looking absolutely unbothered. He stared at her. She did not look up. He waited. This was a technique. When you want to unsettle someone, you wait. You let the silence sit. You make them fill it. She turned a page. He waited more. She reached for a cup of tea without looking up. He said, in Korean, his voice coming out rougher than expected, "Who are you?" She looked up then. Her gaze was direct and not remotely intimidated, and she said, in clear, confident Korean with an accent he couldn't quite place, "Your doctor." He looked at her. She looked at him. "I don't have a doctor who looks like you," he said. She tilted her head slightly. "Who told you you get to have opinions about what your doctor looks like?" He blinked. This was not a response he had been expecting. "I'm Camille Adeyemi," she said, setting the tablet down. "You came into this facility last night with severe internal bleeding, significant liver damage, and a blood pressure that was trying very hard to reach zero. You are currently alive because of a surgery that I performed, which took 4 hours, and which I would like you to appreciate by not doing anything strenuous or stressful or dramatic for the next several days." She looked at him over her glasses. "Can you do that?" Jae-won looked at the ceiling, looked at his arms, looked at the IVs, processed this information. "How many days?" he said. "At minimum, 5. 3. Camille picked up her tablet again. 5. 4. "Mr. Kwon," she said pleasantly, "I would like you to understand something. You do not negotiate recovery timelines the way you negotiate contracts. Your liver does not respond to pressure tactics. Your internal stitches are not interested in what your schedule looks like. You almost died last night. Almost. As in, the gap between you and dying was very, very small, and I was the person standing in that gap. So, with great respect," she looked at him, 5 days. Silence. Jae-won looked at her with the eyes that made grown men cry in bathroom stalls. Camille looked back at him with the eyes of someone who had done a 4-hour surgery at 1 a.m. and had not yet had enough coffee and was not playing games. He looked away first. This had never happened to him before. It was, he thought distantly, very confusing. The next morning was where it got funny. Jae-won, by nature, was not a man who stayed still. His mind was always running, 5 moves ahead, tracking 12 different things, analyzing everyone in the room. Lying in a hospital bed with nothing to do was, for him, a specific kind of torture. He asked for his phone. Camille said no. He asked for his laptop. Camille said absolutely not. He asked for at least his tablet. Camille said she would consider it if he ate the breakfast they brought him. He looked at the breakfast. It was congee and steamed vegetables and something pale and inoffensive. He looked at Camille. "This is food for sick people," he said. "You are a sick person," she said. "I'm not sick. I was shot." "Shot people are sick people. Shot is a subset of sick." "Have the kanji, Mr. Kwon." He looked at it for a long time. "I want samgyeopsal," he said. Camille put down her pen. "You want grilled pork belly?" "Yes. You want grilled pork belly after a 4-hour surgery on your liver." "I'm hungry." "You are deeply, deeply lucky to be alive," she said. "And I need you to understand that and have the kanji." "I don't like kanji." "I don't care what you like. This isn't a restaurant." Do-hyun, who had been standing near the door trying to be invisible, made a sound that might have been a laugh, and then immediately converted it to a cough when Jae-won looked at him. Jae-won ate the kanji. He ate it with the energy of a man registering a formal complaint with the universe. By day 2, they had established a pattern. Camille came in every morning and every evening. She checked his vitals, reviewed his chart, made adjustments, and answered his questions, because he had questions, sharp and precise and specific. The questions of someone who did not like not understanding something. She answered them all clearly, without condescending, and he listened in a way that told her he was filing every word. Between visits, he slept more than he wanted to, and stared at the ceiling and occasionally had low-voiced conversations with Do-hyun about the syndicate situation. The kind of conversations that went deliberately quiet whenever Camille entered the room. On the evening of day 2, she walked in and he was sitting up straighter than he should have been, something tense in his jaw. She checked his pressure. Then she said, "You're stressed." He said nothing. "Stress raises your blood pressure. Elevated blood pressure affects your healing. So whatever you are currently thinking very intensely about, I need you to—" "Someone tried to kill me," he said. "I know. And I'm lying in a bed eating kanji." "I know." "I don't lie in beds eating kanji," he said, and his voice was quiet, but there was something underneath it, something that was not just frustration. "I don't sit still. I don't wait. I don't let things happen to me." Camille sat down in her chair. She looked at him for a moment, not clinically, just looked, the way you look at someone when you're actually seeing them. "You almost died," she said, and her voice was quieter now too. "Not almost as a figure of speech, actually almost. Do you understand that?" He said nothing. "The surgery went well," she said, "but Jae-won," and she used his name without thinking about it, just as the word that fit the moment. "Your body went through something serious. You're going to need time. And I understand that's probably the worst thing I can say to a man like you. But it's true." A beat. He looked at her, not with the cold eyes, just looked. "A man like me," he said. "What kind of man is that?" "The kind who thinks stopping equals losing," she said simply. The silence between them was different from the other silences. It had texture. Then he said, "You're very direct." "I'm a surgeon," she said. "Direct is the only useful mode. Most people don't speak to me this way." "I know," said Camille. "That's your problem." He almost smiled. It was small. A faint shift at the corner of his mouth, gone before it fully arrived. But she saw it. And for reasons she was not about to examine right now, that small, almost smile did something to her chest that she was going to deal with at a later date, when she was not his doctor and it was appropriate to deal with such things. She stood up and did her evening notes. Day 3 produced an incident. At 11 a.m., 2 men in dark suits arrived at the facility and informed the staff that Mr. Kwon needed a briefing and they would be going in. The nurse at the station said she'd need to clear it with the doctor. The men said they didn't think that would be necessary. The nurse said she'd call the doctor. The men said they really didn't think. Camille appeared. She had been in the middle of reviewing charts down the hall. She had, in her hand, a clipboard. She was wearing her white coat. She looked at this particular moment, completely calm in a way that was somehow more alarming than anger. "Good morning," she said. The men looked at her. She looked at the men. "You'd like to go in and see my patient," she said. "We need to brief him on—" "He needs rest," said Camille. "I'm sure whatever you need to brief him on is very important. I'm sure it feels very urgent. I'm sure in the world you operate in, whatever this is cannot wait." She tilted her head. "But I need you to understand that your boss, the man you are so urgently trying to reach, is currently recovering from a surgery that saved his life. And the thing about saving someone's life is that it only counts if you then let them actually live it. So," she smiled. It was a very pleasant smile. "He is not available today. He will not be available tomorrow. When he is available, I will let you know. Are we clear?" The men stared at her. She stared back. One of them looked at the other. The other looked at the floor. "We'll wait outside," said the first man. "Excellent," said Camille. "There's a waiting area to your left. The coffee is mediocre, but it's free." She turned and walked back to her charts. The nurse at the station watched all of this happen and then quietly, under her breath, said, "Wow." Jae-won heard about it from Do-hyun, who reported it with the barely contained energy of someone who had been waiting years for something like this to happen. Jae-won was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She sent them away." "Yes. Lee Sung-min and Park Chul. She sent them away. To the waiting area. With mediocre coffee." "That's what she said, yes." Another silence. "She's interesting," said Jae-won. Do-hyun, in the very careful voice of a man who knows better. "She is." Day 4, 3 a.m. Camille had stayed late because his vitals had given her a small scare in the evening. Nothing critical, but enough to make her want to keep eyes on him rather than relying solely on the night staff. She was in the chair. He was supposed to be sleeping. "You're still here," he said. She looked up. "Your numbers were off earlier. Are they fine now?" "They're better." "Then go home," he said. "Sleep." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you telling me what to do?" "I'm telling you that you've been here for—" He checked the clock. 14 hours. "That's normal for—" "Is it normal to still be in the patient's room at 3 a.m.? Silence. "I wanted to make sure," she said. "Of what?" "That you were okay." He was quiet. The monitor beeped softly. Somewhere outside the building, a car passed. "Why?" he asked, and it wasn't challenging or cold. It was just a question, a real one. "Because you're my patient," she said. "That's the professional reason," he said. "What's the real one?" She looked at him. He looked at her. "You were very close to dying," she said finally. "I don't take that lightly, no matter who the patient is. Something in me needs to know that the people I fight for are still here. It's a personal failing, probably." "It's not a failing," he said. She didn't say anything. "Camille," he said, and it was the first time he'd used her name, and the way he said it, quiet, careful, like he was setting something fragile down, made the room feel smaller somehow. "Thank you." She had been thanked by patients before, many times, in many languages. It had never landed quite like this. "Get some sleep," she said. Her voice was professional but softer than it had been. "You too," he said. She stayed another hour. She told herself it was the numbers. She did not look too hard at whether that was the whole truth. Day 5, morning. He was better, visibly better, color in his face, a steadiness to him that hadn't been there before. She ran her checks and everything told her what she already knew. "You can start moving around today," she said. "Short walks only. Nothing strenuous, the nurses will assist you the first time." "I don't need assistance." You've been in bed for 5 days after major surgery." "I'm fine." "Kwon Jae-won," she said, "you are the most stubborn patient I have ever had in my entire career, and I trained in London. I have had British patients. They are extremely stubborn. You have outdone all of them." He stood up. Slowly, carefully, but under his own power. He was in a hospital gown, which should have made him look diminished, but somehow on him looked more like a deliberate fashion choice. He took a few steps. She watched him closely. "See?" he said. "Fine." "I told you." "You also told me you wanted samgyeopsal 3 days ago, so your judgment is not above scrutiny." He turned to look at her. There was something different in his eyes today, still sharp, still that quality of intense assessment that she'd gotten used to. But something else, too. Something that was not cold at all. "I want to ask you something," he said. "All right?" "When you came here, when Do-hyun found you, you didn't want to come." "I didn't." "You knew who I was." "I did." "And you came anyway." She met his eyes. "The patient comes anyway. That's always been my rule. Whatever they are outside that door stops at the door." "But inside the door?" He looked at her steadily. "What was I, inside the door?" She thought about it honestly. "Someone worth fighting for," she said. "Everyone is." The monitor beeped. The morning light came through the window, pale and golden. He nodded slowly, like he was putting something in a place he'd be able to find it later. "When do I leave?" he asked. "If your evening numbers are good, tomorrow morning." He nodded again. And then, quietly, so quietly she almost missed it, he said, "I'm not ready for tomorrow morning." She looked at him. He was looking at the window. She didn't ask him to explain. She didn't need to. She understood the grammar of what he'd just said, the thing under the words. "Well," she said, after a moment, her voice very even, "your numbers will tell me what's true." He turned back to look at her. And this time, the almost smile came all the way. Small still, a slight curve, but real. Completely real. It was devastating as it turned out, just completely devastating. The kind of smile that reorganized the furniture in your chest without asking. Camille looked back at her chart. Good morning to her professionalism, and good night to her peace of mind. He left the next morning. He had to. The numbers were good. She had no medical reason to hold him, and she was absolutely not going to manufacture one. Do-hyun came with the car and the men. Jae-won got dressed. One of them had brought a proper suit, because of course, and he walked out of that room looking, mostly, like himself again. He stopped at the nurses' station. He thanked the nurses, formally, properly, in a way that clearly surprised them. Then he turned to Camille, who was standing a few feet away with her clipboard and her white coat, and her locks now fully down around her shoulders, because it was morning and she'd just arrived and hadn't put them up yet. He looked at her for a moment. "I owe you," he said. "No," she said. "You don't. I was doing my job." "That's not what it felt like." She didn't answer. "I'd like to see you again," he said. Not smoothly, not with the energy of a man who expected yes, just simply. The words placed down plainly. "I am not your doctor anymore as of this morning," she said. "So that's not professionally complicated." "No," he agreed. "It's not." A pause. "I'll be in touch," he said. She looked at him steadily. "Mr. Kwon." "Jae-won," he corrected quietly. "Jae-won." And the name felt strange and right at the same time in her mouth. "Take care of your liver." "I'll try," he said. "It hasn't given me any trouble before." "It nearly gave you fatal trouble 4 days ago." "That's fair." He walked out. Do-hyun, following behind him, caught Camille's eye just before the door, and gave her a small, sincere nod. The kind that meant, "Thank you, and also, I have never seen him behave like this, and I want you to know that I noticed." Camille nodded back. Then she turned around, walked to the nearest empty room, sat down on a chair, and stared at the wall for a full 2 minutes. She was a doctor. She was professional. She was grounded. She was in enormous trouble. He called on a Thursday, not a text, not a message through Do-hyun. He called in the early evening, and when she picked up, he said, "I'm told I need follow-up blood work. I was hoping you could tell me about that." "There are 40 qualified physicians in Seoul who could tell you about that," she said. "None of them were there," he said. A pause. "The results should come back within a few days of the draw," she said. "You'll need to check your liver enzyme levels specifically." "I know what to check," he said. "I read the discharge notes." "Then why are you calling?" Silence. "I'm not sure," he said. And it was so honest and so unexpected that she laughed, actually laughed, short and real, before she could stop herself. She heard something in his voice that she thought might be the sound of relief. "Camille," he said. "Yes?" "Have dinner with me." "Kwon Jae-won." "Jae-won." "Jae-won. I saved your life. I think that earns me some honesty, so—" She leaned against her kitchen counter. "I think you're interesting. I think you're used to everyone being afraid of you, and that's made you a little bit unbearable, but probably also lonely. I think whatever you do for a living is something we would have very significant disagreements about. And I think you looked at me for 5 days like I was the most confusing thing you'd ever encountered, and I suspect that feeling is mutual." A beat. "Yes," he said simply. "That yes covers all of it?" "Yes." She thought about her rule. She thought about who he was. She thought about 3 a.m. and the monitor beeping and him saying, "I'm not ready for tomorrow morning," and the smile that had come all the way. "One dinner," she said. The silence on his end had warmth in it. "One dinner," he agreed. "And Jae-won?" "Yes?" "If you try to order samgyeopsal, your body is not ready for it yet." He laughed. She had not heard him laugh before. She had not known that it would do what it did to her. She was absolutely not prepared. It was a good laugh, low and a little rusty, like something that hadn't been used in a while but remembered exactly how to work. "Friday," he said. "Friday," she said. And that, my loves, is where we leave them for today. Camille Adeyemi, who came in with her pineapple locks and her coffee-stained scrubs, and her absolute refusal to back down from anyone, who saved the life of the most dangerous man in Seoul and managed to crack something open in him that no one else had ever gotten close to. And Kwon Jae-won, who ran 3 generations of empire and never asked for help, who met the one person who wasn't afraid of him and didn't know what to do about it, and said, "I'm not ready for tomorrow morning," which, if you ask me, is the most romantically devastating thing a man like that could possibly say. Their story is just beginning, and I have so much more to tell you, so here is what I need you to do right now. If this story did something to your chest, if you felt the 3 a.m. scene, if you laughed at the kanji argument, if that laugh at the end got you, subscribe. Right now. The button is right there. Drop in the comments, Team Camille all the way, or did Jae-won's almost smile get you? I want to know which moment broke you first. Tell me, I read everything. And if you want to vote on what happens on their first date, whether Jae-won actually tries to order that samgyeopsal, whether someone from the syndicate shows up and disrupts everything, whether Camille meets Do-hyun in a new context, comment your vote and the story goes where you want it. This is your world too. I'll see you in the next episode. Don't be late.